There are some new officers protecting the streets of Buena Park tonight. This is Crime Watch. Hello and welcome to Crime Watch. I'm Jane Cameron with Sergeant Chris Nunez of the Buena Park Police Department. Looks like there's some activity going on out here.
Yeah, a little bit. While we were on our last call, I heard this broadcast of possible 245, which is assault with a deadly weapon. And it turns out that there were two guys that work together. Apparently, they work as gardeners together. And one of the men got fired from his job and felt as though the other guy had something to do with it. So the guy that got fired came over here. He had he knew where the other guy lived, or at least the general area, and confronted him out here on the street and actually displayed a machete, which is probably used in their line of work as gardeners. So they had words. Well, the one guy had the machete, and for whatever reason, it didn't escalate any further, and the suspect got back in his truck and split. So we just arrived here, and the officers are still speaking to the caller, the RP reporting person, to get more details as to, specifically what happened and where we might find, the other party involved in this incident.
So even though the suspect isn't here, this is still something that the police department can follow up on?
Yeah, absolutely. And that brief synopsis I gave you, we're still not exactly sure if it happened just as I explained. So depending on what the facts are, there could be a couple of different violations, and whenever you bring a weapon, involve a weapon in an incident, then it kind of escalates things, and it's a possibility that there could be felony violation that occurred here. So yeah, this is on ongoing investigation, and the officers behind me, it's interesting that they're both pretty new, so they're actually in training. And maybe if we get the opportunity later tonight, I'll introduce those officers to you.
Oh no, we are.
Okay.
Explain a little bit about, you said it's a weapon. When I think of a weapon, I think of a gun or a knife. I mean, a machete is very similar, but is a weapon, does it have to fit into a certain category of being a certain thing?
No, absolutely not. In fact, that's a really good question, Jane, because it doesn't even have to be a weapon at all. If you use an object as a weapon, that's really what the code section is referring to. So, of course, that could be a gun, or in this case, a machete. But I mean, just some random item like, a stapler. If you use that as a weapon and assault somebody with it, that's an assault with a deadly weapon.
So in something like this, and a machete, you think it's more of a dramatic situation anyway. The officers are going to follow up on where the suspect might be tonight?
Yeah, we'll at this level, at the patrol level, we'll take it as far as we can, and if we feel that we can actually find everyone involved in the incident, then we'll do that. But eventually the trail will run cold, and we'll collect all the information possible, and then those reports will get written up, and the case will be passed on, and detectives will take over.
But in the meantime, you're going to make sure that this guy is safe in case the other person decides to come back.
Sure. We think the other guy with the machete actually lives in town, and we have a description of his vehicle. So we'll look for his vehicle, and maybe if we find the vehicle, we can find him. And like I said, take the case and the investigation as far as we can. Since we are patrol, we still have calls for service, other calls for service that we're responsible for handling. So, we can't take the entire night tonight just on this one incident. But as long as it's still active, as I said, we'll do all that we can.
This looked like a little bit of an interesting call because it didn't look like the woman was really doing anything over there.
No, she wasn't. Actually, we got a call from a concerned citizen, saw her sitting there. If you notice, she was barefooted. She was wearing pajamas. She has no property with her. So the caller was concerned and thought maybe she needed help.
So just as we arrived, the fire department was leaving, so I guess that meant they checked her out and she was okay?
To the extent that they can in the field. So at least medically, she was okay. So you're right. Paramedics did come out. Officers had called for them. No, I take it back. I think they were responding to a possible medical aid call of their own. So I'm not real sure how the fire department was notified. However, the officers may have called them as well, and that would be one of the initial steps to make sure that that person didn't have any immediate medical need, like they were diabetic or that sort of thing.
So she was dressed in pajamas, but what was it about her that just caught everybody's eye as far as what she is, who she is?
Yeah, well, she was just sitting there. She was keeping to herself. So the bottom line is she wasn't really breaking any laws. But the officer's interaction with her made them realize that, she probably did need some assistance. So we ruled.
Did she tell them who she was or why she was here?
No, and that was part of the, some of the factors that led to the officer's decision to take her on to the hospital, to emergency room for an evaluation.
Is this unusual where somebody just doesn't quite fit into any category?
I would like to say yes, but unfortunately it's becoming very common, not just in our community, but my colleagues in other cities. We're all experiencing the same increase with homeless and transients. She wasn't really communicative with the officers, but she did mention that she had come from Los Angeles County. She wouldn't tell them how she got here or what city she was from, nor would she identify herself so that we could, find relatives or, maybe she's a missing person or a wanted person. So right now we still don't know who she is and how she got here.
And in the meantime, the officers just have to use their bag of tricks to try and figure out whatever they can.
Right. The bottom line is she is a person who could use some assistance. So the fact that she's not breaking the law doesn't, eliminate the, our responsibility to lend a hand to someone that's, that needs help. So clearly she did need some assistance, and the most obvious thing is probably some type of, psychological evaluation is what's in order here.
Sergeant Nunez, I find it interesting that sometimes the Buena Park Police Department responds on, there's assaults and there's ugly types of crimes, but there's also the minor types of crimes that take up a lot of the police officers' activity.
Well, that's true, and we go on any call for service that we receive, so there's too many to mention, the variety. But earlier we were on a stolen bicycle call, and if you've ever had your bicycle stolen, that's not a minor incident. That's happened to me before, and I took it kind of hard.
Well, and it's quite often somebody's way to commute. Officers Boyer and Lopez were on the call. Officer Boyer, we were there earlier tonight, and I noticed that you were interviewing the victim. How did he get his bike stolen?
Well, the victim, he's about 19 years old. He started work today about 7:30 at a teriyaki bowl place. He chained his bike up outside the restaurant to a tree, and he said about 8 o'clock he noticed a white truck back up into the parking space next to the tree, and he heard a loud noise, and he looked out, and he noticed his bike was being taken away in the back of that truck.
So even though he locked it up, they were still able to take it?
They cut the lock with it looked like with bolt cutters. So.
Okay, and Officer Lopez ended up going to a place in Cypress. How did that connection come about?
The victim, fortunately, was able to get a license plate number off the truck. So we ran the license plate number, and it came back to registered owner in Cypress, and we had Officer Lopez go check on that address.
Officer Lopez, Cypress fortunately is close by. What did you find when you got out to that house?
We got to the house, and we talked to the owner of the house, and she told us that car used to be her grandson's. The grandson sold the vehicle about a year ago, and they don't know who owns it.
And in the meantime, the car hasn't shown up anywhere, nor has the bike?
Correct.
What's interesting is Officers Lopez and Boyer are brand new Buena Park police officers, and you probably didn't even pick that up. I believe this is your first night?
No, it's my fourth night. But
Okay, I was off
might
by
as well be
3.
the first. So.
And Officer Lopez, you've been out here for a little bit longer?
A little bit over a month. I'm on my second phase of training.
So, mentioning the second phase, you're going to work up to it, I'm sure. What is a second phase of training?
It's just like your first. It's just a different field training officer you ride with, and he teaches you what he knows, and it's just basically the same as the first training phase.
Okay, so it sounds like you're ready to take that second phase when you get to that point, right? Just a different field training officer?
Yes, ma'am.
Give me a little bit of information as to how you became a police officer. Why did you choose this line of work?
Well, I'm a veteran, and I served in the Navy, and I guess I've always had that sense of service, and that's just carried along with me when I left the military and up until now. And I don't think there's a better way to fulfill that passion of service than other than law enforcement. So.
Officer Lopez, I noticed on an earlier call you were able to speak Spanish to the victim, which was extremely helpful. That's a great tool that you can take out in the field.
It is. I was just lucky enough to have grown up speaking Spanish. I'm half Mexican, and my family taught me as a little kid how to speak Spanish. So it does really help out on the field and speaking with people who only speak Spanish in the city of Buena Park.
Tell us, Officer Lopez, how you became into the law enforcement career.
I started when I was about 15 years old. I started the Buena Park Police Explorer program, which, by the way, is best program, especially if you're interested in law enforcement.
Is that a plug?
Yeah, that's my recruitment for the Explorer post. But
Wait a minute, we got to tell the field training officer you get a point for that. So.
Okay. But I started as 15, and I just worked up until I was 21 and went through my police academy in Fullerton, put myself through, and got lucky enough to get hired by Buena Park.
Is it everything that you've imagined it to be now that you're out on the streets?
And then some. It's a little overwhelming at times, but you just got to take it in, take a step back, and step by step take it in. So it's my fourth day, and I think I'm looking forward to many more. So,
Officer Lopez, now you were a police explorer, now you're a police officer. Does it feel kind of weird to be on, the same side but in a different type of uniform?
It's not weird. It is different. It's definitely more challenging. But this is what I've been wanting to do for my whole life, and I'm just happy to be in this position right now.
Sergeant Nunez, I want to make a point that these young officers do better interviews than a lot of your more senior officers, and I don't think it's because you told them they had to.
No, I didn't. I didn't have to twist their arm at all. Yeah, they did an excellent job. I'm proud of them, and even though they're both fairly new in training, they're doing an excellent job so far, and I'm impressed. Although I'm not their FTO, you'd have to ask them.
Now, earlier we were on a call, and there was a third police officer, or another police officer there, the third who's a new one.
Right. The call with the woman
The Black Angus?
Yes, in front of Black Angus. The primary officer there on that call is fairly new as well. We didn't get a chance to meet him because he was busy, but he has some prior experience. He was a reserve deputy with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. So during his FTO training, he performed very well, and he's out on his own and doing great.
How much work is it for the senior officers to run some type of a field training officer, trainees type of situation?
Yeah, it is a lot of work. You would think that the officers in training, do all the work.
Do you do all the work?
In many respects, they are. They're handling the calls for service that they're sent on. However, the FTOs that they're riding with write reports or a daily observation report on every shift they work. So there's a fair amount of work for the FTO as well.
So how long does this FTO or field training officer situation last?
It does vary, but minimally, the officers in training will cycle through 3 field training officers, or FTOs, and each phase is about a month long. And that's on top of the 9 months of academy they've already completed. So their training program is quite extensive.
It's nice to see more officers come into the field. I know that there's been multiple times where the Buena Park Police Department has been strapped with resources trying to get to all the activity that goes on in the community.
Yeah, it's. I think we're really lucky that we've been able to actually fill some vacancies that we've had for a while, and we've actually had a little bit of turnover through attrition with retirements. So we were lucky enough to find top quality candidates to make offers, job offers to, and hence we have Officer Lopez and Boyer here
that are doing all the work.
Well, they're doing what they need to do so far to get through training.
If you have any questions about tonight's show, you can call the Buena Park Police Department at 562-3901. So with our new officers of the Buena Park Police Department and Sergeant Chris Nunez, I'm Jane Cameron. Thanks for watching.
Be sure to like us on the official City of Buena Park Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. There you'll find a little of everything from information about our city services and upcoming events to discounts offered by our entertainment attractions such as Knott's Berry Farm, Medieval Times, and Pirates Dinner Adventure.